This episode is sponsored by Alcor. Global hiring for engineering teams can be a nightmare. Too many providers, hidden fees, slow support, and local rules that don't make sense. Alcor is a different kind of EOR partner. They're built for tech companies scaling across borders with deep expertise in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Alcor combines employer of record services with tech recruiting, helping you choose the right country, find and assess engineers, and onboard them in days, not months. Nearly 85% of what you pay goes straight to your engineers. Alcor's fee decreases as your team grows, and you can always bring the team in-house with zero exit fee. That's why Silicon Valley startups, including 5 unicorns, work with Alcor. Learn more at alcor.com/podcast or tap the link in the show notes. This episode is sponsored by EquityBee. Stock options can be valuable, but exercising them often means taking on real financial risk, putting tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket with uncertainty around the outcome makes exercising a difficult decision for many startup employees. And that's where EquityBee comes in. EquityBee helps you exercise your options without using your own capital. No out-of-pocket costs. They provide non-recourse funding to cover exercise costs and taxes. There's no repayment unless the company has an exit. With EquityBee, you don't leave your equity behind. Go to codestory.co/EquityBee to learn more. See terms and conditions in the sponsors section of the episode page. That's codestory.co/EquityBee.
Look, cloud is an amazing thing. Cloud only or too heavily tied to the cloud also creates bottlenecks. It creates over-reliance on internet access, right? Things like latency and packet loss and bandwidth all can have significant negative or adverse impacts on systems that are too heavily tied and architected to the cloud. And so in the restaurant space, especially in the fast casual and quick service arena that we work, if you have things like holding data back because of bandwidth issues or internet loss or things like that, that can spin out of control very quickly. And we saw that.
My name is Niko Papademetriou. I'm the co-founder and executive vice president at Q.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve more.
Most proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took
you.
it off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Niko Papademetriou is fueling the restaurant commerce revolution by helping them break into the digital age. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. Niko Papademetriou lives in Washington, D.C. with his wife and son. He has had an interesting background professionally. He got into finance and experienced all the downside that 2008 had to offer. Post all of that, he started a restaurant at the age of 26 with some folks and quickly realized how difficult it was. After 4 years, he wanted to start a new thing. But outside of tech, he and his wife spend a lot of time watching his son play hockey. and engaging with the team at the hockey rink. Niko has observed the restaurant business change, moving towards many different ordering methods, mobile, web, in person, etc. At the end of whatever method, the order needed to land inside the black box of the POS system. He wanted to create the plumbing, better yet, the ultimate system to connect it all. This is the creation story of Q.
Q is a unified commerce platform built for enterprise restaurant chains here in the US primarily. We focus on fast casual and quick service chains. So some of our customers are Jack in the Box and Dave's Hot Chicken, Salad Works, and Luke's Lobster, just to name a few. And today, the modern POS needs to go far beyond simply the black plastic box on the countertop. For a long time, you used to be able to take a transaction in a restaurant or a bar with that 100-pound brass machine sitting on the back shelf. And Micros, among a small handful of other technology companies, were pioneers in coming up with more computer-based electronic point-of-sale systems. And quite frankly, there wasn't a ton of innovation there for a few decades between the 80s and really the early to mid 2000s. And you started to get to the later 2000s and there was a proliferation of new order channels, whether it was ordering over the phone. Sure, that's not that different, but it still creates a different workflow. Or as you fast forward a little bit further, ordering from your laptop at work or ordering from your mobile phone as we continue to move forward, custom mobile applications. These days, of course, ordering from kiosks and through DoorDash and so on and so forth. There's a never-ending increase of order channels that restaurants need to service their customers through. And so Q is that modern incarnation of a foundational technology platform helping restaurant chains conduct commerce across all of those channels and whatever's next.
Let's dive into the MVP of Q, that first version you built. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools would you use to, or did you use to bring it to life?
We have a couple of MVP stakes in the ground in our history. You know, that first one, the original one, it's funny. It took 6 or 8 weeks and then another couple months of tweaking to get that base level. You can put 10 buttons on a screen. They can have a word on them called sandwich or glass of wine or whatever. And you can tap that button. It calculates some tax and creates a running check. If you go all the way back to 13 years ago, we had one that did that. And I remember the first ever site we put it in. Believe it or not, it was a hotel bar at a Embassy Suites in Silver Spring, Maryland, just outside the DC border. I think they had 5 beers, maybe 3 wines by the glass, and they served 5 barely cooked or almost CPG-like food products. And that was it. It's the next one and the third and the 13th and the 73rd chain that's using your system that becomes exponentially more difficult. So it's almost not getting that MVP out the door that's the hardest part. It's, again, winning and then deploying that 60th chain and then the 65th chain and then the 70th. That's where it becomes very difficult. And that's where things like tech debt, as we all love to talk about, and legacy approaches to certain things in your data model or in the architecture that you're deploying they've held many companies back from ever being able to expand beyond 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 restaurants. That's, again, in the first case, that's our MVP, but we really restacked the entire platform about 7 years ago, 6.5 years ago. And that's really the birth of Q, was about 6.5 years ago. And that one took us 18 months, about 12 months to get into our first few beta restaurants on the new stack. And then another 6 months or so getting it into the second and the fifth and the 50th restaurant with the whole new platform. And it took us a couple of years while we were selling and deploying that new platform into net new customers. It took us a couple of years to migrate all of our existing portfolio over to that new platform. But yeah, that MVP, call it 6.5 years ago, was a behemoth, when now you have to build an MVP that satisfies dozens of chains and thousands of restaurants.
This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain. Let's go from that point then. So I'm curious about how you progressed and matured the version of Q, that really where Q came alive. I'm curious about that progression maturation process, and to wrap in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is, how do you build your roadmap? How do you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address?
It's easy to go down a path of letting your next most exciting customer dictate that path for you. And in many ways, it seems like that's the most natural and organic path to go down. Keeps your customers happy, and, that sounds great. The problem is that if you go down that path, it never ends. Not that there's ever an end in sight regardless, but it never ends because every customer, every unique user has a different perspective on a thing. Now, our ideal customer profile, the slice of the addressable market that we serve, are fast casual and quick service chains, right? 20, 200, 2,000 plus unit chain. Even amongst that very tightly narrowed operational model, there's still a lot of variation amongst how one chain versus the next versus the third, let alone one franchisee versus a second versus a third, even in the same brand, like to run their business. And so when you look at us compared to our peers at market, we're probably the most narrowly focused unified commerce platform out there in the hospitality space. Again, fast casual and QSR only, and mid-market and enterprise only chains. Even amongst that, there's a backlog of 1,000 things that people have asked for and would like a tweak on or something different. And it's actually our responsibility, and really where much of our value proposition comes to our customers and to our industry, to be the filter, to be the thought leader that can understand the challenges from 10 or 30 of our customers and marry those with broader challenges and opportunities that our market is facing, and translate that through our lens, through our product organization, which at the end of the day is our value proposition, to bring product that best suits the needs, almost both the spoken and the unspoken needs of our customers in the market, so that we can help them run their businesses. And I'm very firmly attached to the fact that as soon as you become a custom dev shop for every single one of your customers, you immediately put a timestamp on your product. It just never goes past that. It stops innovating and becoming the platform that your customers bought and wanted to go on the journey with you. And so how do you create that roadmap? It's through a very concerted effort, working with your customers, working within your market, and not just being okay with, but actually challenging yourself, your organization, your leaders to continue to push the boundaries and to continue to think outside the proverbial box in building and bringing to market solutions that better restaurants' day-to-day lives.
So I'm curious about team. How did you go about building your team, and what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
Oh man, I wish there was some perfect formula, but I think the reality is that it's a balance of a lot of things. I don't think anything's super unique here, but it's a balance of smart, hardworking folks that are not just willing to, but desirous to roll their sleeves up. It's looking for people that are willing and actually crave asking why, not just walking into a room and hearing what's going on and just following suit, but asking why. And equally or even more importantly, bringing innovative solutions to problems. Every company has problems. It doesn't matter whether you're a tech company or a restaurant operator or the government. Everything's got problems. And it's easy for people to sit back and say, oh, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. The hard part is bringing solutions. Not all of those solutions will always be the right, perfect, best thing right out of the gate. But you have to bring solutions and be willing to ask why and be willing to have tough conversations. And that's from leaders to entry-level folks that are just out of college. And so that's a big piece of it. Folks that are willing to ask why, folks that roll their sleeves up and look at challenges and opportunities, but also bring solutions. And then there has to be a deep desire to help people through what we're building and delivering. As soon as somebody becomes cynical about something, it's over. They can't be here. That's not going to be helpful. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean anything other than the fact that as soon as you start looking at the users of your system, all right, the most important people in the room, aka the users of your system, as anything but who you're working for and the actual end user of what you're trying to deliver and achieve together, if you look at them as anything less than the North Star of who you're looking to please, you're not going to be successful. So we look for people where those are deep values in what they bring to any organization at any level that they're at. And I'll add one more thing. We look for people who love and thrive in being part of a team. The team can be the whole company. The team can be a team of two that are going off and working on a new product. But people who see more value in bringing others along for the ride than just being independent and trying to get recognition or whatever on an individual basis. Because in business, 2 + 2 needs to equal 5, just has to. And if you have a bunch of people that are ones, it's hard to add those up and have them equal more than the sum. You need something that equals more than the sum of the parts. Otherwise, you're just building some linear company. And that's not really the key to long-term value and successful growth for an organization.
Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. Niko, let's talk about scalability, and this will be super interesting. I'm curious how you approached scale from the beginning, and also, if there have been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown.
I think it's easy to look at scalability in the very tangible ways. Okay, I have X number of transactions or volume through my cloud services today, and I'd like to make sure that that my current architecture and tech stack can achieve Y. Okay, you run testing against it, you turn up the knob by 50% or 300%, and you see how the system works. We look at scalability far beyond the sort of constraint of what's in front of you today. We look at the technologies that we're using, the architecture that we have. We try to see around the corner as best we can. We're not geniuses. We're not all-seeing. We're not all-knowing. But we really try to look around the corner and get ahead of legacy debt and technical debt. And a lot of those things aren't just in your code base. They can be in the technologies that you've chosen to build your company on. And they can be on the cloud services and the actual distribution of how your system works. And so you have to think about what's coming next, and you have to think at scale of 10 and 50x where you are, because sometimes you can hit it big, you can be successful, and suddenly you find yourself there. And if you weren't thinking about those things before you get there, you're in trouble. Another critical piece of scalability is security. And a lot of people don't even think that stability and security are in the same sentence or same paragraph, but my goodness, they are. And if you're not thinking about security through the lens of scalability and you're a tech company, you're in big trouble. That is a keen focus that we have. We even have a vice president in our organization who literally has security and scalability in their title because of how deeply interwoven and intertwined scalability and security are. I think those are areas we look at. The last thing I'll say is we've made inroads into the restaurant industry with edge computing. We have our Cube series, the Cube Business Edge series, where we have 3 different flavors of an edge node that we bring cloud services from our AWS public cloud instance down into the restaurant. And that's just another example of us seeing around the corner. Look, cloud is an amazing thing. Cloud only or too heavily tied to the cloud also creates bottlenecks. It creates over-reliance on internet access, right? Things like latency and packet loss and bandwidth all can have significant negative or adverse impacts on systems that are too heavily tied and architected to the cloud. And so in the restaurant space, especially in the fast casual and quick service arena that we work, if you have things like packet loss or you have serious drawback and you're holding data back because of bandwidth issues or internet loss or things like that, that can spin out of control very quickly. And we saw that. And we saw that in the early days, and we said, we've got to combat this. Restaurant operators need 3, 4, 5 nines of uptime. They cannot have something like cloud outage or internet outage affect their ability to transact in a restaurant, because these are businesses that are super highly tied to cash flow. And if you can't take a transaction for a few days, an otherwise healthy business in the restaurant space might quite literally go out of business if they can't conduct business for just a few days, maybe a week. We've architected this edge-first platform that, again, brings the most relevant and most valuable slice of our public cloud in AWS down into the 4 walls of the restaurant, which adds another layer of resiliency and stability and speed to the business. There was a large cloud outage. There have been 4 really in the last 3 months. I'll just say high impact across cloud native systems. And we're very proud, and we're not the only one, but we're very proud to be one of the most resilient and one of the best enterprise unified commerce platforms in the hospitality space. Our customers had no impact to their ability to open, take, and close transactions within the four walls of their restaurants through those outages. And it's because of our thoughtfulness on the architecture. And again, taking it full circle back to our relentless focus on scalability and stability.
So as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built thus far with Q, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of being part of a company that employs hundreds of people. The only thing that you can't take with you more than money, and we all know that saying, can't take money to the grave, is time. And the reality is that every single person who decides to be part of the Q journey is making that decision every morning when they wake up. They're making the decision to spend a lot of their waking hours, the time where you're actually doing stuff and talking to people and using your head, going and combating this quandary, this challenge together, right? Being part of this team that I was talking about. And they could go and do that at many thousands or who knows, maybe even millions of other companies in the world, right? They could do that in so many other places, but they choose to do it with us. They choose to be my partner, my colleague, the colleague of the people I'm looking at in my office here. Through our conference room wall here, I'm looking at folks in our office that are choosing to spend their waking hours with us, doing this together. And their families or friends or pets at home and all of those things combined are putting them on loan to us to go take this mission and bring it to fruition together. So yeah, that's what I am by far most proud of. I've gotten to make a lot of great friendships over the last dozen years in our industry. There are a ton of folks that I like so much and I appreciate, and I've built friendships that will last, that will outlast this business or whatever their business. But what I am definitely most proud of is the fact that we've built an organization that has a mission that ultimately lots of people every day want to go on together. And I just don't think the money you pay somebody or the benefits package ever in any capacity, I don't care if you make millions of dollars a year in, I don't know, finance or whatever, I don't think pay ever fully rewards you for giving your waking time to a mission and working with others. So I think that's definitely what I'm most proud of.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I'm going to work backwards first. Transparency is definitely the best way. That I don't care what the mistake is. A personal mistake where I was a thoughtless jerk to my son for no reason, just because maybe I had a lot on my plate in that moment and he asked me a question and I didn't respond to him kindly, right? That's a mistake. And in business, I was negotiating a huge contract years ago and completely dropped the ball on inserting some very important language that was going to protect us from a relatively unique scenario that was part of this particular engagement that wasn't normal. It wasn't something that was just like in all of our contracts and with all of our customers. And I completely botched it. I just neglected to include that language in the contract that we were working on. And we went through many more rounds of red lines. And then it was pointed out by a colleague of mine that we hadn't inserted this protection around this particular item. And most people would have said, shoot, I can't do it now. It's way too late, right? If I were to change that now, it would look like we were baiting and switching, or it would look terrible. And I said, I agree. It will look terrible, but it's the truth. It's my fault. And I'm going to talk to this person about it. I'm going to talk to the team about it. And so I did. And to their credit, they understood. They weren't happy. You don't have to be happy when you understand things, but they completely understood why it was so important that we brought this different framework into the contract that we were working on. And it was way late in the game and it added weeks to the negotiation. But guess what? We aligned on something that worked for both parties and we shook hands and we both signed on a contract together. And we have a great relationship with that brand today and have for many years. And that thing that seemed so incredibly difficult in the moment because of just a sheer oversight mistake was rectified in the grand scheme of things very quickly and with very little overall pain, all because of honesty and transparency. And bringing that full circle back to my 12-year-old, if I'm a thoughtless jerk because, hey, I'm human and I make mistakes, I'm going to say, hey, man, sorry about that. I totally messed up on that. I apologize. I'm going to be transparent about it. I had a lot on my mind. You didn't deserve that. And man, I'm sorry. Guess what? That usually garners it's okay, Dad, and a hug. So I don't think that these things are that much different, whether it's business or personal relationships or what have you. I think it starts and ends with trust and transparency. And I think even difficult things to communicate always end up in a better place if you're just open and honest and transparent.
Okay, Niko, let's move forward then. What does the future look like for Q, for the product platform and for your team?
In some capacities, it's probably boring. It doesn't look that much different than where we are today. In the relatively foreseeable future, we're going to continue to focus immensely on fast casual and quick service chains. What they need out of technology is continuing to advance. I wouldn't say there's a hard 90-degree pivot in any capacities around the tech that they need necessarily, but they certainly need modern platforms that are highly scalable and resilient and secure that do what tech should do, which is empower and embrace agility and change rather than the opposite. We're going to continue to focus on those things. We're going to continue to focus on the operator. It's going to start and end with the operator. That has to be where great technology is focused on in my industry. You have to think about the people in the restaurant. You have to think about the people that they are interacting with every day, the customer standing right there, the customer in the drive-through lane. If those are your North Star in what you're building against and investing in, you're on the right track, big time. So we're not going to change any of that. What I will say is that we have always had a deep belief that data and our data architecture, and thus our ability for our customers to connect with their data and use their data in ways that better their business, whether it's driving top line or mitigating exposure to supply chain challenges or driving down costs, all of the above and more. Data is the linchpin for all of these things, but you have to have access to it. It has to be fluid. Data is alive, and you have to understand that. And you have to have a platform that understands that and that is empowered by the fact that data is not this static thing that just happened here and sits over there forever. And so focusing on ways that we can continue to enhance and enrich the way that our customers, from the folks in the restaurant to the CFO or the CMO in the organization and everybody in between, can look at, see, touch, feel that data, make decisions that are informed by that data and have that better other aspects of their business. That's where we're going to continue to invest. And so we do see things like being able to better bring together the snapshot of your guest, of your customer in ways across channels and potentially even in ways across businesses. There are more and more companies today that own and operate multiple brands. And who's to say, or why should only one of those brands, one at a time, if you operate 3 or 7 different brands, why should you only look through the lens of that one brand when it comes to engagement with your customers? The short answer is you shouldn't. You should be able to see that snapshot of the customer across your brands, across your portfolio. So ways that we can continue to invest in bringing rich insights off of the data and then actionable intelligence around that data to our operators from the cashier inside the 4 walls of a restaurant all the way up to the C-suite.
Okay, so let's switch to you, Niko. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
Perhaps a generic answer, but it is very true for me. For a very long time, my North Star, the person that gave me a lot of my belief in myself, was my dad. My parents for sure, but my father specifically. He worked very hard for a long time. He was a very smart guy, but he had a deep belief that he was never the smartest guy in the room, that there were others around him regularly. In fact, he seeked those people out. He wanted to insert himself in rooms, proverbial rooms, where he wasn't the smartest guy, where everybody else around him gave him an inferiority complex. And then he wanted to beat through that, if you will, with just sheer determination and hard work. And so I grew up in a household where I saw an immense amount of just brutal work, doing the work. And for a long time, he used to talk about, he was an immigrant and my mother was an immigrant as well. And he used to talk about longingly the fire in an immigrant's belly. They'd come to the United States, for example, and, there's no second chance. There's no such thing as going home. And he used to tell me very truthfully and very raw, it was hard to hear when I was younger, that I didn't have that fire in my belly because almost not even my fault, but because I grew up with everything, right? I grew up in a house in America. We had a car. We had a nice two cars, right? I went to a great school. I had shoes and clothes, and I didn't really want for anything. And he said, Niko, all I've ever wanted to do in my life was provide that to my children. But by the same token, I'm probably holding you guys back because I gave you everything. And it's this quandary. And so for a long time, I used to have an inferiority complex for sure. I used to always think, gosh, how could I ever be as successful as my father, or as hard of a worker as my father? And just at some point in my life, in my mid to probably late 20s, I realized that was unhealthy. That wasn't the way to look at things, and that I am my own person. And as soon as you start to realize that and not live for somebody else or to try to meet or beat some expectation, some made up expectation that, quite frankly, again, you're the one who probably made this up anyway, you release a lot of constraints that actually hold you back from ever realizing those kinds of lofty goals that you want to set for yourself. And so sometime in my probably late 20s, I think I realized this, and magically at that same time, I always had a good relationship with my parents. But at that time, my relationship with my parents, and especially my father, took a huge leap forward. And we started really being able to communicate with each other more as peers. Obviously, he was still my dad, and in many ways, I always looked up to him. But we looked at each other as peers, and we had very mature conversations, and we bounced ideas off of each other. And from a work perspective, and I saw him build companies, and I saw what he looked for in people as he built teams and built companies and delivered impressive things to folks all over the world. And I just started to say, I can be my own version of something like that. Not that I have to be the same thing or do it the way he did it, but I can find my own areas of expertise, things that make me excited, things that make me want to wake up every morning and work 12 or 15 hours. That realization, I think, changed my life, but it's really been my father who was my mentor, my North Star, the person I looked up to. And again, I think the most important thing is, as soon as I learned that instead of trying to model myself after him, instead, I should actually just embrace who I am and what I'm good at. I think my life changed.
Last question, Niko. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. And can we show it off to you right there on the plane? What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
There's a reason that we have senses in our body. In the early days, it was so that if you touched something and it was super pointy or super hot, you knew not to pick it up. And if you saw something that looked scary like a shark, swim in the opposite direction, right? If you smelled fire, run in the other direction, right? There's a reason we have senses. And I think we forget that. And because we live in a modern world that's very different, right? We live in apartment buildings and houses, and we drive cool cars, and we walk around with supercomputers in our hands. And so I think sometimes we forget to use our senses. And what I mean by that is look, listen, feel. These are the most basic things that we have genetically as humans. If you look at the most amazing, people in history, from an Einstein to a whomever, whatever, these people look at problems, and generally they came up with very simple approaches to very complex problems. Most of them, not every single one, but most of them didn't just trip and fall into a world-changing solution. Most of those people had lots of smart people around them. They asked lots of questions. They rolled their sleeves up. They had a willingness to fail. They learned from those around them. They listened to their professors. They asked questions in class. They consumed information. They're voracious readers. Learning from the successes and failures of those around you. Learning by touching and feeling and modeling and failing at things is definitely the best way to build a company that can have a good chance at succeeding. I believe. I'm probably wrong, but I certainly believe that. So what I would tell that young, hardworking person with a brilliant idea that is just getting a business off the ground, I'd say ask hard questions of those around you. Don't be afraid. If there's somebody you look up to in the industry you're trying to break into or that you're in, ask for their help. Even if it's a competitor or a peer, who cares? I have lots of relationships with lots of our competitors or slightly adjacent people where maybe we compete a little bit. I have lots of relationships with those people and those companies. And I love having interesting conversations with people. And I'm not afraid to ask how they did something. I'm not afraid to ask what learnings they have and still translate that through maybe our own lens here at Q. But I think you're doing yourself a major disservice if you think you can just go at the world alone and you're better and smarter than everybody else, and you can do it better than, look at all these other dumb people around here. They're doing it all wrong. I can do it better. Okay. Chances are that if you look, listen, feel, try, and don't get too afraid of making mistakes, you'll do better. So that's what I would tell that young man or young woman.
I think that's fantastic advice. Well, Niko, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Cube.
Love it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Switching between tools for one project gets disjointed, especially on tight deadlines. Grammarly built a game-changing writing surface tailor-made for professionals to help you move your ideas forward and sharpen your writing. You can brainstorm ideas, summarize meeting notes in seconds, or strengthen a proposal without context switching. Easy to get started and even easier to finish. Sign up for Grammarly free and get your professional writing from draft to done. Visit Grammarly.com. That's Grammarly.com.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.